destruction, and terrorism everywhere she touched. Among the victims of our late ambassador, Chris Stevens, I mean, what she did with him was absolutely horrible. He was left helpless to die as Hillary Clinton soundly slept in her bed.
Tonight, a new report compiled by the Democratic members of the Benghazi Select Committee disputes Trump's claim there that Hillary Clinton was asleep at the wheel during those attacks in Libya that left Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 others dead. This new 344-page report says Republican claims that Clinton or anyone else intentionally delayed the military response or order to stand down are unsubstantiated. The Democratic members also indicate, quote, security measures in Benghazi were woefully inadequate as a result of decisions made by officials in the security and law enforcement arm of the State Department. This minority report also adds to these conclusions that, quote, Clinton never personally denied any requests for additional security in Benghazi. Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, who serves on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Benghazi Committee. Good evening to you. What, in your view, is the key takeaway from this report, and why put it out now before the Republican report?
Well, we've been at this now for longer than I think any congressional investigation in history. So whatever information we were going to accumulate has been accumulated, and we wanted to make it clear that this turned into a totally partisan exercise. And Donald Trump's comments make it clear. As usual, he is factually inaccurate. In fact, I'm sure the Benghazi, even the Republican portion of the Benghazi committee would admit that Hillary Clinton was up that entire night in constant communication with the State Department personnel and with the people in Libya. She was not asleep in her bed. So basically what we have concluded from this was a partisan exercise designed to embarrass Hillary Clinton. That's what we suspected from the very beginning, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, Congress has a low enough approval rating already without something like this to further downgrade the public's opinion. Now, look, this was a serious international incident. It deserved to be investigated. It was investigated 8 separate times, other than this special panel. It was investigated. There were a bunch of different findings that were concluded, and we learned a lot from those. From this, we just learned that the Republicans wanted to take partisan potshots at Hillary Clinton as often as they could, and Donald Trump's comments on the eve of the Republicans releasing their version of the report simply, once again, makes it clear this was about partisanship, not about American national security.
And I suppose it breaks down into whether this is simply an investigation that's shaded against the opposing party, which I think you would admit happens a lot in Congress, or whether there was some further problematic process. I'll read again from your new report. It says Republicans excluded Democrats from interviews, concealed exculpatory evidence, withheld interview transcripts, leaked inaccurate information, issued unilateral subpoenas, sent armed marshals to the home of a cooperative witness, conducted political fundraising, exploiting the deaths of 4 Americans. In one of the most serious abuses, you write, Chairman Gowdy personally and publicly accused Secretary Clinton of compromising a highly classified intelligence source. So are you alleging that beyond the normal partisanship that can happen in committee work, there was some real dereliction of duty here on their side?
Oh, good heavens, yes. And I'll disagree with your first point. We've actually conducted a fair number of investigations in a very fair bipartisan way. And just to give you 2 examples, 9/11. I mean, George W. Bush was president. Can you imagine if a Democrat was president when 9/11 happened, what that commission would have looked like? The commission that investigated 9/11 was very fair and unbiased. It wasn't trying to make partisan points. It wasn't trying to blame George W. Bush. It came up with, I forget the number, but well over 100 different specific recommendations and actually tried to find national security solutions. After the Beirut bombing, when Ronald Reagan was president, again, a democratically controlled Congress investigated that, not for partisan advantage, but to figure out how to protect Americans. This panel is unprecedented in its partisanship, and all the things that you just read. I mean, they would go out and interview witnesses without telling us. They'd come up with some cockamamie theory about something that Secretary Clinton or somebody else in the administration did. They'd go out, interview a witness. The witness would totally contradict what they said, and then they'd just bury it. They wouldn't tell us about it. I mean, it makes it clear how partisan this was. And it's sad, because this was a tragic event in American history. And people acted incredibly heroically that night to save American lives. And we should highlight that. and we should also learn from it, as we did in the independent investigations that were done, what we can do better to provide security.
Do you think this
investigation?
Yeah, do you think, though, that this is going down the way they basically planned it out, or after watching those 8 hours of testimony where they didn't seem to find a way to lay a glove on Hillary Clinton when asked what they learned that day, they didn't really have takeaways? Do you think at a certain point they have realized they didn't get as much as they were hoping?
Well, I don't know what they've realized, but they've completely failed in their mission. And because they were so partisan, they didn't even, have a pretense of trying to be fair. Which is not smart. I mean, if they were trying to do this in a way that would embarrass Secretary Clinton, the least they could have done is tried to appear to be fair. They didn't even try. So at this point, I think the American public is not going to look at this report and be persuaded at all. There will be the hardcore Republican conservatives who despise Hillary Clinton to begin with, who will be cheering it.
Right.
But this is not going to do anything for undecideds or people in the middle, because they just made it so partisan and so blatant.
Right. Well,
that they weren't really trying to do anything else.
We reported on the Democratic staff report. We will be reporting on the Republican one when it comes out. Congressman Adam Smith, thank you for your perspective tonight.
Thank you for the chance.
And coming up, President Obama getting involved in the campaign again, and how Donald Trump failed the Brexit test.